because we got whatever was out of our systems, and now it's over.
Oh, it's over.
Right? I mean, we lucked out, actually. Stumbled upon the perfect little ending we should have had 25 years ago, and nobody had to get hurt.
Nobody got hurt. Closure. It's nice now.
Yeah. What we had was great, but I am with Johnny.
I'm with Gigi.
And you know, I'm gonna take Johnny out to dinner tonight after rehearsal.
I'm gonna take Gigi out too.
See? We're with the people that we were meant to be with.
We are with the people we're meant to be with, and you and I, we're good now, right?
Yeah, we're good.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, kids.
Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Ricky. Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely.
Nice little turnout. I didn't know there was a live audience till about 20 minutes ago. This is nice you guys came. Thanks.
How you feeling about that? Is that cool?
I like it. I like it. It beats sitting in a dark room with just you.
Absolutely, it beats sitting in a dark room with just me. You don't want to be there. You don't want that. 2 seasons into Sex and Drugs and Rock and Roll, a show that I was telling you before I love. I think it's a show that goes deeper than most comedies on television. Were you expecting that when you started working on the show with Dennis Leary?
Look, man, it's a heavy title. It's an iconic title, and a lot of people, when the show came out last year, I think they wanted more than just set up dick joke, which it sort of was last year, but that's Dennis Leary. And it took him a while to get used to, oh, this isn't vinyl, or roadies or a show like that. This isn't a real intimate look about, a rock and roll band trying to make it in New York. It's a funny show about guys in their 40s and gals in their 40s and 50s that think they have one more shot living over in Brooklyn, and they're going to try to get the band back together. And it's hard to live up to that title because it's so weighty. But now that we're in the second season and people kind of know what the show is, the viewers from last year, I don't know what new viewers are thinking when they tune in, but it's kind of one of those shows you don't really have to see the week before. It's not like Ray Donovan. You don't have to follow it. If you just tune in for the first time this coming Thursday, you'll find out if it's your cup of tea or not.
But it rewards. I would definitely say that it rewards watching most of the episodes. That there is a slight serialized nature to the storytelling.
For sure. To find out that who Gigi is and that she's Johnny Rock's love child, and she can really sing her ass off, and that Johnny Rock, if you don't know that, is Dennis Leary. He's screwed my wife 25 years ago when we were just on the verge of being a New York band called the Heathens. We broke up the same day our record came out, and now here we are. And I became Lady Gaga's guitar player, my character Flash, and so this young girl shows up. So to get revenge, Flash is going to sleep with her, and until he hears her sing, and everybody sort of perks up because this girl Liz Gillies, who plays Johnny Rock's daughter, can really sing. She was on that show. You're a little older, but did you ever see that show Victorious with Ariana Grande? She was on that show, and Liz, she can sing her butt off. So last year there was much more singing from Liz, but we found our little fan base, and Dennis writes all the songs. I mean, he writes the episodes, stars in it, directs a few, writes the songs. It's like a one-man band over there.
So what's it like working with him on set? How, usually when you have a scene partner, you can play around and joke around, or do you find that he's really focused on everything that's going on around him?
Yeah, Dennis is pretty relaxed. He comes to work. He's one of these guys that gets up about 4 o'clock in the morning, writes for 3 hours before he gets to work. I'm showing up with my hair sticking out and going, what time is it? He's ready to go, and he knows all his lines, and he's saying, hey, next week I think I'm going to do this, put you with her, and what do you think of that? I mean, he's just on top of it, and he's but he's like a boxer. It's hard to be a boxer if you're tense. You got to be relaxed and then hit a guy as hard as you can. He's kind of, you know what I mean? It's like driving a car and having, white knuckled. It's better if you're just hanging on a little bit, and that's how Dennis is. He doesn't white knuckle it. He's really laid back.
Did you do any research going into playing your character on the show? Because there's a lot of versions of your characters living in Brooklyn or on the Lower East Side. Well, probably in Brooklyn now, not the Lower East Side too much anymore. But there's a lot of versions of these guys around the city.
I did more research into. I knew a little bit. Johnny Rock, Dennis Leary, and Flash, me, have that century-old guitar player, lead vocalist hate for each other. And I did some research into some Stone stuff with Jagger and Keith Richards, into Joe Perry and Steven Tyler. I looked up what that was like for those guys a little more, because I wanted to have a conflict with Dennis. I've sort of been around, rock and roll bands. I used to when I first moved to Hollywood in 1980, I used to go to the Sunset Strip and hear all the bands at the Whiskey and the... I even was a roadie for a hair band called Dokken, if you remember Dokken.
Dokken? You were a roadie for Dokken?
Yeah, my neighbor was the guitar player, George Lynch. And I ended up... And Mick Brown was the drummer, and I ended up hanging out. I was a roadie for them before they were even Dokken, when they were a band called Exciter. So I've been in this kind of rock and roll world for a long time.
Dokken, I think that's so funny. That
Don Dokken.
Dokken.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Did you see like Guns N' Roses at the Whiskey back then?
Guns N' Roses, Wasp, Rat, all these guys. Yeah, of course. Guns N' Roses was like a local Sunset band. Who knew? Who knew that was going to happen?
So when they reunited and Axl's on tour with them, were you like, I don't need to see that. I saw it so many times back then.
No, I'd love to see it. I think they reunited this past year at the Troubadour for their first show, and I actually was online like the night of it, looking for any YouTube videos of people holding up. I'm excited about that.
So what did you discover in your research about like Keith and Mick and Joe and Steven about their relationships?
That they love each other and hate each other, and nobody can really figure out why. They just each want to be in control.
Well, it's one of those things that the lead guitarist is doing a lot of times, writing the music and then also holding up the band in a lot of ways and holding up the lead singer. And the lead singer is the one who's in front and getting all of the attention, because he's what's considered the performer at the time. It's a very obvious sort of like, who's the better performer, who's the one running the band kind of question.
Yeah. For sure. I have my own band. I have a four-piece country rock act. We've been together for 11 years. I've been playing guitar since I was 7 years old. But in 2004, I put a band together, and we put out 2 country records, and we've had some success. We play the Cutting Room here and B.B. King's here about once a year. We've probably played 750 shows in the last 10, 11 years. And it's the same thing. My guitar player, Tara Novick, I've known him since he was 16. In fact, when I moved to Hollywood in 1986, I met this 16-year-old kid, and we've been playing together ever since. And it's that same thing in our band. We're a 4-piece band. We don't have a road crew. We're the road crew. We go out in a van all over the United States, and the 2 guys, Tara and me, we sit in the front, and all we do is argue. Can't tell you what we're arguing about, but we're just constantly fighting about control. And I love this kid like a brother, but I just want to open that door and push him out half the time.
How did you start the band in 2000? Was it 2004 you started the band?
2004.
What prompted it?
I got invited to one of these CMT award shows in Nashville. And we had never been to Nashville, although we'd go over to his house and get drunk and play guitars. He's a phenomenal guitar player. When the Stray Cats broke up, Slim Jim Phantom and Lee Rocker, when Brian Setzer left the Stray Cats, he went out on the road with those guys because he's an amazing rockabilly guitar player. So I said, let's go to this award show. Well, we got to Nashville, and we were there for about 4 days, and we just met all these great people. And Joe Nichols, who's a big country music artist, became a friend of ours, and I sang some songs one night, and he said, that's not half bad. You ought to come here and make a record. Come make a demo tomorrow. So we went to this guy's basement and sort of laid down some tracks, and next thing you know, somebody was offering me a record deal, which I turned down, and I decided to put my own records out. And man, within a year, we were touring the country. I still have a record that I've gotten from billboards. Highest, nobody's broken it yet in 10 years, highest debut by an independent artist on the country charts. We came in at number 48. Nobody's broken my Billboard record yet.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Were you always a country musician beforehand, or did you sort of fall into writing country songs?
This is more. It sounds country. It sounds George Jones and George Strait. This is more kind of Keith Urban at his rockinest country music. A little Skinner-ish. You know, it's more rock and roll than your standard country. I mean, look, even our buddy Steven Tyler, he's just put a country record out. You know, so this is more rock and roll. Our live show, we do a 3-hour show also, no breaks. So if we go on stage at 9 o'clock and we have 500 people there, at midnight, we have 450 people there. So that says to me they like what we're doing. They're sticking around, you know, because they can just leave when they're bored.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the things that I love about this show was that going into it, I thought it was going to be about a successful rock band. I thought it was going to be about like a touring successful rock band who were getting high and getting laid. But then when you watch the show, it's about washouts, guys who are washed up. And it's kind of sad. A lot of the humor comes from the sadness of these guys' lives, as you said, thinking that they could make it. Were you surprised by the tone that the show took, or where the show ended up going? Did Dennis sort of communicate that vision to you guys?
No. Dennis gives us the scripts right before we start. We started this past end of February, and he gives them to us in about 3 or 4 script increments. So we sort of find out the trajectory of where we're going. Right now, last Thursday, we do 10 episodes a year. We were number 5 last Thursday, so we're exactly halfway through. And it's taken us a really dark turn from the light comedy that it was last year. And, you know, I like it. It's got more substance this year. It's got more room to breathe. And, I mean, look, I'm 55 years old, right? And Dennis is a year or 2 older. So it's cute and charming when you're 23 years old and you're in New York trying to make it in a band. But when you're 55 and 60 years old and you think, you know, you're 1 gig away from some stardom, the odds of that happening are almost 0. So, you know, it's funny but sad to see these guys giving it their all with their hopes and their dreams. I mean, there is a point in life. I still have guys that I went to acting class with in 1986 that haven't done a thing to speak of to earn a living at it that still think it's going to happen. I know it's not going to happen, but I would never tell them that, but it ain't going to happen, man. You know, it doesn't happen for everybody. Fame is not waiting for everybody most of the time.
How much do you credit your success to sort of your own personal talent and to luck? A lot of people talk about fame and success in Hollywood. It's just sort of like, I just got lucky.
It's all luck. It's all luck. It's like that college sports thing where I might be the best guard on my high school basketball team, but as soon as I get to college, I'm just another dude. You know, everybody in their first year of college in college sports was the best guy on their team. You know, and it's like that in acting class. I think there's so many great guys, especially men, that were just a little bit older than me when I started in '86, that should have been stars, should have been movie stars, let alone big theater actors. I mean, and it's just you never saw them again. And eventually they kind of give up. For me, it really was just sheer luck. You know, I was in the race, and I was finishing, you know, out of 10 people, I was always finishing about 4th, 5th, or 6th in the race. But for whatever reason, 4 guys tripped in front of me. and for Northern Exposure, you know, my first big break, and I ended up on the stand holding gold because I won that role. And then that, of course, leads to other things. But if that didn't happen, I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking to you.
Well, absolutely. And most actors sort of have that same fate. There's that one project that most actors would say if it wasn't for that one project, even if they didn't get famous from it, they met a casting director at it or a director at it, and that was the thing that kind of started the chain of success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, I met Dennis Leary. Remember in the 22 years ago at the MTV Awards where Howard Stern came down as Fart Man? I don't know if you remember that. I was presenting that night. I gave, with Shannon Doherty, I gave Van Halen, Sammy Hagar Van Halen, an award for Right Now. And Dennis was there that night. And I remember talking to Dennis. So listen, that's how, because of Northern Exposure, that's how far back I go with Dennis. And he, you know, he had me in mind for this thing. Hence, no Northern Exposure, no MTV Awards, no Dennis, no Johnny C sitting here screaming into this microphone.
I'm curious, you have Northern Exposure, you have My Big Fat Greek Wedding, now you have Sex and Drugs and Rock and Roll, and a lot of other parts, but you might end up being known as Aiden for the rest of time.
That's my sparkle tooth.
How do you feel about that?
That's great. That's just great. Listen, my buddy said to me, he said, dude, this is not a buddy, this is just a smart buddy who's not even in the industry, but he's a smart guy. He's in the medical field. And he said, dude, do you realize that you have, every actor just wants one iconic role. He said, you have 3 iconic roles, Northern Exposure, Sex and the City, and Big Fat Greek Wedding. He goes, do you even think about that, how lucky you are to have that? And I really don't think about it. I don't ponder on it too much, but when I sit down and do something like this and we happen to be talking about me, around my house, we don't talk about me for an hour hardly ever. So
Your family,
yeah, I'm enjoying this bit of it.
your family's like, tell us about playing Aiden.
Yeah, so anybody that has been Aiden and gets the smiles and treatment that would say, oh, I'm tired of hearing about Aiden, they would sort of be a fool. My dad would say, that guy's a fool. No, man, that's what you want. When you're in those acting classes and you spend all that money, and at the end of that scene, he says, no, man, do the scene again next week. You know, all you want is for people to say, hey, good job. Yeah, it's nice to have people talk about it.
You want to connect. I mean, it's the idea of connecting. You get to connect to a large group of people, and if you have people who see you on the street and say, "Hey, Aiden," you've connected to those people. I don't know if like construction workers are yelling, "Hey, Aiden," at you, but yeah, sorry.
Listen, I'll be completely honest in a really open, revealing, narcissistic way. When in 2000, that's how long ago Sex and the City was. 2000, I did it in 2000 and 2001. And 16 years ago, damn. The show would come on Sunday nights, right? I think around 9 o'clock. And I was living on 66 and Broadway in a little apartment up there. And at 9:35, I was hitting the streets. Walking down the streets looking for somebody to say, attaboy, hey, buddy. You know, I mean, that's why we do this on some level.
Did you get it?
Yes. Yes. I'd go into a bar, I'd talk extra loud, Jack and Coke, please. You know, hoping somebody, my buddy calls it peacocking. He says, you're peacocking.
Yeah. Anybody see that Sex in the City tonight?
Yeah. Yeah, I could sit in my little room after the show was over on Sunday nights and or I could go out and get some attaboys, you know, and every actor wants attaboys, I guarantee it.
I'm curious. You know, we're talking about your iconic roles and your role now. Is there a role that you've done in your career that you rarely get an attaboy for that you look on extremely fondly?
Yes, there's I was in a movie, one of the coolest movies ever. Now, I had about 10 lines in the movie, but after it was cut, I think I had 3 or 4 lines, but I got to be in the middle of the desert shooting it for about 4 months with some of the coolest guys. The movie was called Tombstone with Kurt Russell and Val Kilmer. It's one of the great, you don't have to applaud. You don't have to
Great
applaud.
movie. It's a great movie, yeah.
But it was a great movie. It was a great experience. Sam Elliott, Bill Paxton, I mean, Michael Biehn, the list goes on. So it was all us dudes out in Tucson, Arizona for 4 months just being real cowboys. Being cowboys for 14 hours a day in the hot sun, and then we all stayed in this Holiday Inn in the middle of Tucson, and we would be cowboys at night around the bar and the pool and drunk and hungover and fights with the locals. I mean, it was just...
And with Kilmer.
I'm not a guy that goes around looking for fights, but, you know, when I'm next to Sam Elliott and he's drunk and a guy wants to fight, you're going to fight. You know, it's just the way it is. Jason Priestley was in the movie, and he's not a fighter either, but I remember him swinging some guy around by the hair. Yeah, so that is, you know, it's not always about the amount of lines. And listen, when I first started, I was an extra in Cagney and Lacey. If you go back to Cagney and Lacey's, you can see me looking at dead bodies and walking the streets. And just to be on a set was and still is in a very exciting time. There's a lot of days when I'm an extra on Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll, where we're just in scenes and we don't have anything to do and we're sitting and watching. It's being on a set to me is exciting, man. It's not always about how many lines you have to say.
I'm gonna ask one more question about Tombstone because you brought it up. What was it like working with Kilmer on that movie? Because Kilmer in that movie, to me, is like the height of Kilmer kind of getting to do what he wants in a performance. They're just like, we're just gonna let Val take this.
Well, let me tell you, you shoot movies like this. Action, rolling, 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 talk, 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 cut. Now, on a good take, that's about 2 minutes. 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes is a long time to roll. Usually it's less than that. And it's shot so out of sequence. When Val Kilmer, if you've ever seen Tombstone, when the cinematographer sets the lights and the editor does what he does and they adjust the color, in the editing of the film, it's different because when you're shooting the movie, you're just seeing it with your eyes, and it's not going to look filtered like it does when you sit in the theater. You're just seeing what it looks like. And so Val Kilmer shows up with literally like white face on. That when the movie gets made and the magic of the camera, now it's going to look, when you see Tombstone, it's going to look like, like he has TB and he's sick. But when he's sitting talking to you, he's just got white face on. And he's talking like this, and I'm your huckleberry. And the first time he did it, we're all just looking at each other going, what in the hell is he doing? What's going on here? He's ruining this movie. That's what we were thinking because we don't see the end product. He's just doing this thing for 1.5 minutes, and I thought it was going to be a disaster.
Turned out to be a great performance.
Turned out to be the best performance he's ever given.
Let's open it up to the audience for some questions. Does anyone have any questions out here? Right here?
Hey, John.
Hey.
Absolutely love the show. I got 2 questions for you. Has your background in music helped you on the show? And second, which do you prefer, acting or singing?
Dennis really wanted somebody who knew their way around a guitar because he knew that the lead guitar, when I watch anything with a guy holding a guitar, I stop listening to what's being said and I just look at his hands because I want to know if this guy knows what he's doing. And 8 times out of 10, he doesn't know what he's doing. So Dennis wanted a guy who knew his way around a guitar, and he needed a guy in a certain age range, and he needed a guy that people knew, and he needed a guy that was going to do some television. And it narrowed it down to, I think I was the only guy left.
4 people in front of you fell down again.
Yeah, because teaching some guy lead guitar is a hard thing to do. It's really, so it definitely helps. It definitely helps. Now, would I rather go on the road with my band for a month or be in a movie studio for a month? It's a toss-up because when I'm in the studio, I got a guy going, knock, 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 knock. Mr. Corbett, can we get you a nice hot latte? How about, you want a tuna sandwich? They got tuna sandwiches going around. You want one? And that's a luxury that you forget when I'm out. When I'm out on the road, listen, there's 4 of us. We load in all the equipment. I make all the arrangements. I go to the hotels and tell the guys to unpack the... I've driven every inch, by the way, too, because I want to live for these 8 hours that we drive in between each city for a month. So I go in, get the keys, write everybody's room down, come back. It's 4 guys out on the road, and I do a lot of the heavy lifting besides being the front man in the band. But I still would rather do that than be on a set where somebody's getting me a hot coffee because it's just so much damn fun, Yeah.
I can also imagine one makes the other one a little sweeter too, right?
Well put. One makes the other one a lot sweeter. Yeah.
Next question.
Hey, John. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Which rock artist would you like to see make a cameo on the show?
Which rock
Artist.
Oh, God. Well, we lost David Bowie. That was Dennis's dream to get David Bowie. He made quite a few references to Bowie on the show, and that was such a shock to us. We tipped a hat to it a little bit in the first couple episodes. God, who would I like to see? I think I'm still I still like Stephen Perry. Joe Perry. I still like Joe Perry, man, is my go-to rock and roll dude. I like everything about him, the way he looks, the way he talks. I wish Joe would come on our show. We had Joan Jett on the show. Or Steven Tyler. I'd go for Steven Tyler too. I met Steven Tyler last year for the first time, and we sat down next to each other, and we were talking, and he was telling me how bad his knee hurt, and then he just rolled his pants up and he threw his leg over mine, and he had this kind of beautiful tan leg without any hair on it, but it was really kind of heavy for a skinny little guy. It was like a 50-pound leg, you know? And I was just kind of admiring his leg. And it's like, man, I've loved this guy since I was a kid. It's like he can keep his leg there as long as he wants. This is very cool. He was very charming. He charmed me.
It was like a test for you.
Yeah, it was a test.
Next question.
That's me. Hello.
Hey, we know each other.
We do.
We were at a party last year
were.
for, was it Captain America?
Showing me. No. I was actually trying to remember specifically what it was,
We talked,
and I
you were
could
with your
not.
friend. What's your first name?
Mitzi.
Mitzi.
Yes.
That's right.
I'm so pleased you remember.
I got a great memory, yeah.
Everyone likes you more now. But I wanted to ask, so when you're really deeply immersed in a project and you're done and you don't have something immediately to go into,
Yeah.
do you have a hard time pulling yourself out of it? And what do you do with it? And also just generally, how do you spend your off time when you have nothing to look forward to?
That's an interesting,
Specifically.
great question. Yeah, I do. For instance, I'm in that phase right now. After I'll do some more promotion tomorrow, and then I live a couple hours north of Los Angeles in a little town of about 1,700 people, and 3 restaurants. So I have a ranch there, and I'm a big guy. I kind of look like I would be a cowboy type person, but I'm not really. Like if I want to ride one of my horses, a guy has to help me saddle it because I still don't really know how to properly saddle a horse.
You're a true actor.
Yeah, I'm a true actor. And I'm not very handy. I'll have to call a guy if one of the fence posts break, that kind of a guy. And I spend a lot of time staring at the phone, hoping and wishing it will ring with something interesting to go do as an actor. But that, the hard, cold facts of show business, especially film and television, the facts are this. It's a young people's business. And the older you get, that phone stops ringing. And you can use your Morgan Freemans and your Kevin Costners all you want. But on the whole, when you get a little older, that phone slows down. It's harder on women. I'm 55, and it's really slowing down. But for women at 35, that phone almost stops ringing completely. And it's, it's like athletes, man. You just got to know the game when you get into it. You're going to have a little window, and then it's going to get tough. And that is a tough. I'm celebrating 30 years. I got my SAG card in 1986. This is my 30th year in show business, and I've been really lucky. And
You got a regular show, too.
I got a regular show, but I am a greedy actor. I even doing this show for the 2 months a year that we do it, I can spend the rest of the year just hoping and praying something happens. And my friends say, "You're greedy, man." And it's like, yeah, damn right, I'm greedy. I read Us Magazine and Star Magazine, and I see all these cats working, and and I'm competitive. This is a competitive business, so it's my downtime's tough. So that's when I put the band together 10 years ago to really fill that void and at least feel like I was doing something.
Do you still go out for stuff? Do you still audition or anything like that?
I don't audition only because no one asks. No one asks. Listen, you don't have to. It's a fact. It's a fact. You've seen Kevin Costner lately. Kevin Costner doesn't look like the old Kevin Costner. He's only working now because his name's Kevin Costner. If he was just some guy that was on television looking like the way he looks now, which is older, he's put on a few lbs, hair thinner, he wouldn't be working, man. It's just it's what happens to us. In a few years, I'll be in a box in the ground, and I'll weigh about 9 pounds. And that's what happens to everybody. We get older. You know what I mean? We get older, and it's just not in acting. You guys know that. It's in just about every damn business. Yeah. It's young people's business everywhere. So don't do what I did. I gave away a lot of my good years just effing off, thinking I had forever. And I didn't. When I was in my 30s and 40s, a lot of my 40s, I thought I had all the time in the world. I didn't go after things. When they would want me to come audition for things, I was too good to do it. You know, I'm not auditioning for that. Are you nuts? If I could go back and change some of those habits, I spent a lot of time being hungover, you know, missing auditions because I was young and stupid. I changed a lot of that early part of my career if I could go back in time, you know, and use that time. I'd view it as more precious than I did.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great words of advice. I think last question right here.
Hi, John.
Hey.
I love Sex and the City. I'm sure you don't get tired of hearing that. It's one of my favorite shows.
Thanks.
In my opinion, Aiden was the best of Carrie's boyfriends, and I'm still really upset that she ended up with Big. But we won't talk about that. So my question for you is, which one of your characters can you relate to the most? No pressure to pick Aiden.
Which, you know, the great thing about Aiden for me is that I got to work with Sarah Jessica Parker, and just about Sarah Jessica Parker only. If you looked at all the episodes I did, I think I had one or two with all the other girls. So every time I'd go to work, it was just with her, and she's one of the best actresses on the planet. And that's just because acting to me is like a tennis game, right? And I want to go out there, and I don't want to get creamed every time and chase the balls. And even if somebody can do it, I like the volleying part of tennis, the back and forth and back and forth. I don't want to chase balls all day long. And if I'm playing against somebody that I could whip, that's no fun either. So there was something fun about it that I don't always find in the other people that I'm playing that acting game called tennis with. But she was one of, and is one of the best. I wish I could work with her on her new show. I can't wait to see it. Divorce, I think it's called, on HBO. But yeah, I think I love Aiden the most, really. I'm not pandering, I do. Yeah.
Sex and Drugs and Rock and Roll is on Thursday nights, right? Is it
Thursday nights, 8, 9, or 10 o'clock. In different parts of the country, I don't know which.
And we're 5 episodes in. There's 5 more. It's a great show. It's one of the best on TV. Thanks so much for being here, man. Talking to you.
Man.
Thank you.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you.